Welcome to Tech Brothers Damir. In this video, we are going to learn how to deploy your SSRS report, but I will be doing from very basic, and we will be creating a report, and then we will be finding our report server and then deploying the report. I already have installed some software such as SSMS and SQL Server on this computer, and I'm going to show you the database I'm going to use, and then we will create the report. To create the report, what we need some data that we want to present in the reporting. So here my SSMS is, and I'm connected to the SQL Server. I'm going to go to one of the database called TechbrothersIT, and here I have one table called total sale. So in this video, you will be learning a lot of tips and how I debug the issues when I'm deploying my report or creating a report. So this is a very detailed video tutorial for you. So we will be using total sale table to create our report. Now let's go and create our report. We will be using Visual Studio 2015 for that. And I will be creating a SSRS project. Okay, so our Visual Studio is open. Now we will go to the file, click new, and then we'll say project. And here we are gonna find different type of projects that we can create, such as integration services, reporting services, and I am choosing reporting services. I'm gonna call it my Tech Brothers IT SSRS project _ SSRS. So, okay, here you go. Now what we are going to do here, the very first thing we are going to create a shared data source. This is the same data source that we will deploy to our report server. So it is a good idea to create a shared data source, add a new data source. Okay, and now first of all we would like to provide a very nice name. So I'm going to call this DS Tech Brothers IT. That's our database name as well. Now in the connection string, we are going to provide our server name. So you can go to your server. Here you will say select @server name, and that will give you server name. You can always use a drop down, but sometime if you do not know the server, or your server is remote, not on the same computer, you might not get in the list. So it's a good idea. You can always go and use the server @ server variable and get the server name. Here I'm going to use Tech Brothers IT as a database. Test connection, all good. Now we hit OK, and our shared data source is created, and the extension of that is .rds. Now we can create shared data set. That means if we want to use some query results over and over, we can use that one, but we don't have to use that. Let's go to the report here, add new item, and here I'm going to create a blank report. I'm going to call this one as a sale report. Just kind of give you a nice name when we deploy this report, and you would know that what it does, and that make it easy for the users to read what this report do or serve the purpose. So here first of all we will be going to the data sources, and here we click add data source. We will be using our shared data source. Click here, that's our data source we are going to use. Hit OK. We can always name this one really nice one. Instead of saying data source 1, we can say DS, let's say Tech Brothers IT. Pretty much the same name what we have here. So your choice. It kind of tells you from which database this record is coming, or this is this connection is established. Here is the data set. The data set is a query that you are going to use to extract the rows and display on the report. We are going to go to the add data set. Here I will just embed that. So I choose my data source. I'm going to go prepare my query, and here I don't need the ID and the other columns. So I'm going to select everything from this table. Maybe if I don't need other columns, I just kind of remove them, but let's say we need all the columns. So paste it here, refresh fields, go to fields, and here you will see all the fields that are coming from by using this query, and that will show as the data set properties. See, I did not provide the name of the data set as well, so it's a good idea you provide that. Just go to data set property and say data set _ sale total. Now from here I can read that this data set is returning me some records from the sale total table. You can provide more descriptive name, but I'm going to go with that. Let's go and create a report. Here I'm going to create a table. You can create chart report or whatever you want, and in my case I don't care. I just want to demo the whole thing, how you create a report, how do you deploy the report by using Visual Studio. Here I'm gonna grab some of the columns, and let's call it city, let's call it a state, and now finally we'll get the country. All good. I'm gonna make a little small here, so at least it does not look ugly. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it a bold. If you wanna have some background colors, you can always add that. I'm very bad with the colors and everything, so I choose very ugly colors. I'm not a good designer. So but anyways, you choose your best colors, whatever you like, and here we have our report ready. Now you can do all different fancy things in this report, but I'm gonna go ahead and preview this and deploy this report to the report server. Now our report is ready, and next step is we are going to find out to which server this report need to be deployed. Come on, this is taking a little time, but this should come just fine. So meanwhile, what we will do, we will find a report server on this system. If I already have the report server, so I'm going to go and say in the search report, and it should bring me reporting services configuration manager. Okay, we will hit yes. And now what we will do, we are going to connect to the report server. Here you see that that's my server name, and that's my report server instance. When I install this, this is what I have provided. So it's gonna show me my report server. There are two things you can see from here. Actually, there are a lot of things, but what I need a couple of things from here. I need a web URL. So a web service URL, that's my report server URL. If I click on this one, it's going to open this report server. So this is going to be not that fancy. So this is just going to be set of folders, reports you're going to see here. If you have deployed anything, if you have not deployed anything, it's going to give you a message here for the report server. At least we see what how the interface look like. So second part, let's go to the report server again, configuration manager. Here we have a web portal URL, and this is the fancy stuff. That's where your users are going to see the reports. And this look all like you have folders here, you're going to have reports here, and this is where your users are going to have access to read these reports or view these reports. But our goal is to deploy these reports to the report server. Most of the time when you will deploy to your reports, it's going to be something like this. The computer name, what you have, and then you have a report server. Okay, see right here. And if you have whatever the instance name you have for your report, that's underscore that thing. Okay, how this link looks like, this will be your computer name and say reports most of the time. And if you have instance names such as you have a if it is named instant, that's what it is gonna be like, underscore that named instant. So underscore reports, sorry, backslash reports. This is your computer, that's your reports, and then if this is named instance, you are gonna have this one. Otherwise, you are gonna just go to this part of it and see your reports reports URL. Okay, so what we need, we actually need this part. Okay. Now let's go back to our report here in Visual Studio, and we see that this report is great, looking really good. And I'm gonna go to design again. I'm just gonna hit save button. Now this is the time when we need to deploy this report. How you deploy this report, you're gonna go to the TechbrothersIT, that's our project here, and underscore SSRS. Here I'm gonna go and say properties. Okay, don't hit the the very first thing, it comes to build. Okay, you can build all the reports, rebuild. So if there is any error, you're gonna see that error right here, but in our case there is no error. Share data sources, share data sets, and all the reports, you know, looking everything good, so we are all fine. Now you are gonna go here and we are gonna deploy the reports, but first we will set some properties. Here, go to properties, and we are gonna read this in detail. Here, if you have any shared data sets, that's where it is going to put. It's going to call that folder data sets, and where that folder will be, that will be on our report server. Okay, target data source folder is called data sources. So you see right here, that's where it is going to be putting our data sources, and this is the folder it will put our reports. So this kind of took a little bit of information by itself and created these things. I'm not going to call this one. So instead of saying data sources, I will say, just I remove the space, I can always call TB_data sources. So TechbrothersIT sources, that's what I can call, or anything whatever you call, but give some descriptive name so you know that this folder contain the connection for your data sources. Second part, target report folder, it's called TechbrothersIT_SSRS. I'm going to call this one _reports. Okay, you can call it _sales or whatever. So there could be many things you can do with the name of the folder where you are deploying the reports. Okay, target report part folder is a reports part folder. If you are doing some parts of there, you can do that, but I haven't really used this part. So anyways, a target server URL, that's what it's in, localhost report server. So what we are going to do, if you guys remember that our report server, that's the path. So we copy this one, copy from here, and that's where we are going to go to our Visual Studio, delete this and Control V, that will do it. HTTP //techbrothers report server _TBIT. That's our URL for our report server, not for reports. Remember, there are two things. This is a fancy URL for reports to show, but this is the part of where the report server is. So that's the URL you're gonna put. Don't put this fancy URL. This is where the reports are gonna be shown to you. So once we deploy them, okay, go back here, hit apply, and now we say okay, and finally we'll say deploy. So just to understand that, right now I have only one report, but if you have 20 report, 30 report, whatever the reports you have, they all will be deployed to the given folder what we have provided the information in the properties. So just make sure if there are some reports you already have it, you don't want to override it, all that, so you don't want those reports in this project. Okay, but if this is the first time you want to deploy all the reports, fine, you are going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to show you guys how you can deploy individual reports in next video. From here, what we are going to do, we are going to go ahead and deploy, hit deploy, and now what we have here, it is deployed successfully. Now this is good. So what we are going to do, we are going to go to the report server. That's our server. We are going to refresh. Okay, and you can see that there are two folders created. TB_data sources, that's our data sources, and the second one is our the reports. So we go back here, and that's where our sales report folder, and that should have our report right there. So it's going to show us that. See. Sorry, this was the report itself, so it will show the report. We were in this is the folder. So to see this reports in fancy link, that's the URL. Remember our report server name / that's our report server. Actually that's my computer name. Then you have / reports, and then you have underscore your instance name or whatever it is. If you have a default instance, you are not going to have this one. But if you refresh here, once you deploy the report to the report server, you're going to see all those folders. You are seeing these folders here in this format, like text format. Here you're going to see as a graphical user interface and very beautiful folders. So two folders are created. One is a TechbrothersIT_reports, and that has our report. So it's called sale report. Good. Now let's go back and check out our data source. So in this data source, what we have here, that's our connection string. So you guys see here TechbrothersIT / TBIT, that's our instance name, and then our initial catalog, that's our database. This looks really good, but if you see here, you need to have credentials. So what we are using here, we are using my credentials here on that one, but we need to use some different credential or account that does not expire. If I leave the company, that should be always there, you know. So we should be doing something different. So we will be saying use the following credentials: database name and Windows username and password, database username and password. So if your company is using some service account, they give you to create use that one, provide that. And in our case, we don't have service account and all that. We are going to go ahead and say database username and password. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go to the Tech Brothers, and first of all, let's go back here in the database. Here, go to security, and I'm going to create a new login. I'm going to call this one SQL Server authentication user. I'm going to call SSRS underscore TBIT. Okay, so this is my account, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave this all and set the password. Okay, so password is the DBA123, and not a great password, but will work. Then I'm going to go to user mapping, and I'm going to provide permission to this database. Okay, so I'm providing permission on this database to the SSRS underscore TBIT user, and I just need to provide the data reader permission because I am only reading the sale table from this database. Okay, so there could be possibility you have to provide more information, more permissions, such as if you are using views, you know, you are using store procedures and all that. You might want to go say provide those more permission. You can always go on securables and search for different objects and provide the permissions. In my case, data reader is just fine because I'm reading from the table. Okay, we are all good here, and right there, hit OK. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go back to my report server here, and I'm gonna paste my username, and here our very secure password DBA123, and I'm gonna test the connection. It connected successfully. Apply. Now what's gonna happen, every time I will deploy the reports, maybe I create another 10 reports, and wherever I need to use a TechbrothersIT database, I can use the same data source. Okay, so I will be using this data source in my other reports as well, and I do not have to provide any other username and password for that, because this is the username it is going to use and reach out to the database and get the data for me for all the reports from a TechbrothersIT database. Now let's understand the real scenario. Will you have the permission to do that? So in this case, see if you guys notice that I was creating the report in Visual Studio. I deployed the report to the report server because I had this Visual Studio on my computer. I had a report server on my computer, and I have all the permissions. In real time, if you are a developer, what you will be doing, you might be applying these reports to the dev server. So let's say you have another server where you need to deploy these reports for just to see them, or to the QA server. In real time, mostly developers, they do not have all these permissions to deploy the reports to the any servers. So what they do, they give the report to the DBAs, and DBAs can have that. DBAs maybe open your Visual Studio, add the reports there, and just deploy to that report server. That's easy way for DBAs to deploy the multiple reports. But there is another way how the people can deploy the report. So if you guys notice that, we can go back here, see the properties here, and here copy. I'm gonna copy the path, and let's open it, and that's where my report, where my reports are. Okay, here let's say you provide this RDL and this provide .rds to the DBA, and tell him, hey, you know what, I need to deploy this report with this RDS. What he's going to do, he's going to take these two files and deploy the report. How he can do that? Now let's take the same scenario, and we are going to go back to our folder here, and I'm going to go and say, okay, I just want to go ahead and manage. I'm going to go and delete this report. So okay, and now I'm preparing myself, I'm in production. Okay, so let's say this I don't have to delete actually this data source there, but anyways, think about that DBA even didn't had that database data source at all, you know. So Now this is a production server. He has created some folders. He can go and create a new folder. Let's say he say SSRS reports, and let's call this one prod SSRS reports. So okay, now as per your requirement, maybe he has to put the report here. So what he's going to do, he's going to go there and then he's going to add that file, .rdl file. So you give to him, maybe you put in the Team Foundation server or maybe GitHub, and he will download these two files from there. RDL is your reports file and .rds is your data source file. Okay, so he's going to do that. So first of all, he's going to upload your report. So he's going to go and say upload. Here is upload button. He's going to put right there. Okay, so RDL, that's where my report need to go. So my report went there, fine. Now if I try to access this report, it is saying the report server cannot access the report or shared data set, shared data source DS. TechbrothersIT for this report, SharePoint site is not valid, this is missing and all that. This information is very confusing information. So what it is asking, you need to have this data source because that's what it is using. Okay, good. So what we will do, we'll go to the here we will go to this folder called the TB data source. There is no data source here. He's going to upload the data source there. So this data source will be uploaded. Now what he will do, he will go here and go to manage, and here he will say go to the, that's where it is. He go to manage, long time. Okay, I think this is fine, but to go to security, and no, don't have to provide the security here. So what I'm doing wrong here? Okay, maybe I'm doing everything right. I just need to click on this one. It says initial catalog, you know, and all those kind of things. Well, what I'm trying to look here, how he's going to set the security for this data source. Okay, so let's try to run the report. We'll see. Sorry. I am here. Yeah, I should be here. Okay, so it is saying report server cannot access the report, share data source. Let's go to the report here. So we go and manage, and now we are gonna go and see data sources. So first of all, we have to tell for this report which data source to use. We're gonna select that, and if you remember that, that's data source is empty. TV data source is empty. Why it's empty? So we know that this is not empty, right? Okay, so what we can do probably, if I am most of the time what we do, we create actually new data source here. I can do that. So I'm gonna call this one DS TechbrothersIT. And if you guys remember that, we can take the connection string. So description, SQL Server, and here is a connection string. So I don't know the connection string right now on my top of my head. I'm gonna call this one DSTBIT. Just okay. So I'm gonna go ahead, and what I'm gonna do, I am going to create something. I'm gonna call this google.com and say connection string SSRS SQL Server data source. Okay, so we copy paste and just make some data source. See right here, that's the one we copy, and see if that works. Yeah, data source, localhost, this one, initial catalog, that should be just fine. SQL Server instance, okay, on the local server, and you have all that. Okay, now we go back. We are creating our data source. I am still like considering I should work it through with that one, but we are gonna do that too. So here and that's where my instance name need to go, TBIT. So I remember that I told you in the very first minute we are gonna do this one as our kind of learning session. So we are going to debug, we are going to do all those kind of things. So I'm playing with this too, So if you guys here, and now it asks us what credential you would like to use. So remember that we have created the credential SSRS underscore TBIT, and the password was DBA123. So I am creating this test data source here is connected successfully. Create. Now I have these two data sources. This is the one I deployed, and my report is not able to see that, and this is the one I just created on the report server itself right now. Okay, so I'm gonna go to my reports again, prod report. Here I'm going to go to manage, and then I'm going to try to link the data source I just created. So now I go here and I will say data sources, I find that one, and now I save it, and then go to the reports again. Now my report is running just fine. One of the thing what we couldn't do it here I don't know, view as hidden items. I want to see this RDS. Maybe just the name is creating problem. So I'm gonna go and say instead of .rds, if I'll say name, apply, and now I go to the I should be able to update this one. So this is what it is. What's wrong with this data source? How you deploy the data source? And this is where I am properties, description, data source. I am doing something wrong here that I don't know, because if I'm the XML does not appear to have any style information associated with documentary is not shown below. Okay. So anyways, if you are not able to upload your data source from here, that should be fine. What you can do, you can always create your data source here. This is one of the way. I will further investigate and see how I can deploy my data source directly, which are created by SSRS project. But you see that I just created the data source in front of you. Not a big deal. Provide the data source name. It doesn't have to be the same name what you have, and then you can provide the information, and then at the end you need to go to your report and just there and go to manage and provide go to data sources, and here you will choose that data source that you have created. So as a DBA, that's what you're gonna do. You're gonna get the RDL and then have a shared data source that you can use for multiple reports, and just map that data source to the reports. So I hope you learn a few good tips from here, and learn how to deploy your reports by using a Visual Studio, and also learn how to deploy your reports from this report interface. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys in next video.